Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover with yours truly, Jarrell Mason, better known as J Mace, where not only do I interview people within the entertainment and music industry and give them their flowers, I interview people that's out doing their thing. And these two gentlemen I have with me have been doing their thing for a long time. They met at Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and currently have a network called Good Old Boys, which you can catch them on YouTube, various streaming platforms. So give a big round of applause to Beyond the Album Cover, my boys, my good friends, Mario Washington and LeTroy Gardner. Mario, LeTroy, welcome to Beyond the Album Cover, fellas, and it's a long time coming.
Oh, thank you, Jarrell. Pleasure to be here. We've been a fan of yours as well since the Time Machine, so it's good to finally
Man,
catch
you
up.
you you
Way
pulling
back,
it out of the
way back.
archives, man. I appreciate the love and supporting me since my WAG days and the new platform Beyond the Album Cover. So the love is reciprocated, fellas.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man, it's good to be here, man. Good to see you still out here doing your thing as well, man. You know, we've been fans for a minute.
Yeah, man. It was something that I started about 3.5 years ago to get my passion back out there, and it's been successful and fruitful. I had to take a break from broadcasting for a minute, but realized that this is my true purpose, and I'm glad that it's been well received amongst everybody who's been following the show page and listening to the interviews, new and old.
Oh,
All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, I want to go to you, Mario. Are you originally from South Carolina? Did you relocate, and how did you end up going to Winthrop? And LaTroy, same question to you after Mario answers.
the brief story is born and bred in Fairfax, South Carolina, in Allendale County in South Carolina, which is the blackest county in the state of South Carolina, at least at the time that I was growing up. I don't know if it still is, but grew up there. I went to South Carolina for my freshman year. Was not going to graduate if I stayed because I found a lot of me at South Carolina, and I needed some people that was going to elevate me a little bit more. I think so. Coming to Winthrop was my coming out for getting in to radio and stuff. I started doing radio at WINR, which is Winthrop's radio station, and finished school and been in broadcasting ever since, man. Like my first year in broadcasting, I counted as my first year when I was at Winthrop, and that was 1998. So I've been doing this for a minute.
All right, you, LaTroy.
Okay, so I'm also from South Carolina, but I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. So we're a little bit more elevated than Allendale, Fairfax. I
Only
I,
because you got Hilton Head, though.
I coined them a third world county, so we're a little bit better off than that. But my dad was in the Marine Corps, so we moved a little bit. We moved to North Carolina, so I was there for about 10 years, and then returned back to Beaufort. And I'll say this: I didn't really have a plan as far as what I was going to do after graduating from high school. I was experimenting. I was interning at a local TV station my junior and senior year, but nothing was set in stone. And then I went on a tour, and me and my cousin, Roger Coakley, toured Winthrop University. We were told that there was an 8-to-1 female to male ratio, and I
Selling
was
point, selling
sold.
point.
Yes, and I was sold, and we was like, yeah, we're coming here. And mass communications with a focus in broadcasting was my major. Shortly thereafter, I met the individual that you see in the screen, Mario Washington, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're from Beaufort, South Carolina, and that's kind of more down toward the coast, like Hilton Head, more of the vacation touristy area. So, what was it like, kind of year round when you didn't really have the tourists coming into town? Was it a slow season, or did it just peak during the spring and the summer months when tourists would come to town?
Well, I'll say because I'm from St. Helena Island, and pretty much most of my exposure as a little kid was around friends and family. So I was really only around Black people. And then once, we moved out into military housing, that's when I was exposed to other backgrounds. But I never really noticed the tourists because St. Helena Island was strictly Black. But then, of course, gradually, white people started buying property. And, as of today, I'd say it's about 55-45. when I was growing up, it was like 90-10.
Yeah, and we know about the history of blacks owning properties on beachfronts by the water. And then once certain folks heard about this, knock, we'll pay you this much for you to get out. Some took the money, others were like, nah, I'm gonna stay right here and look at the Julie Dash movies, Daughters of the Dust, so that way you get familiarized with the culture of the Low Country, which is considered inland South Carolina, Georgia, and then the Gullah culture. Shout out to Ron and Natalie days in Gullah Gullah Island. Nickelodeon was on for the culture, having everybody learn about Gullah culture, especially in and around the
Oh,
Charleston
those are
area.
Troy's cousins, right?
Well, I haven't confirmed it yet. We have the same. Well, Days is my original last name. I was adopted. That's a story for my book, I guess, if that ever comes out. But
The
yeah,
movie.
the movie. Okay. Well, Days is my last name. So I think we're blood somewhere down the line. I haven't done a genealogical check to make sure, but I'm pretty sure we're related.
Man, how dope that would be to find out you're related to the creators of Gullah Gullah Island, man. I watched that show when I was a kid. Hey, I was past Nick Jr. age, but I didn't care because that show was enriching as far as teaching those that don't look like us about a culture that pretty much didn't really get seen on the nationwide scale until Gullah Gullah Island. And then, as I mentioned, Julie Dash's movie Daughters of the Dust, which Beyonce paid tribute to in, I believe it was Lemonade.
Right. So Sarah and Simeon, the kids from Gullah Gullah Island, they're doing some amazing things that's going to be coming out soon. So be on the lookout for it. I think there's some documentaries coming out.
Okay. All right, definitely that. Now if they can pull out Binya Polywog, I will just faint and just be like, oh, you brought out Binya. But explain to us Winthrop University, how the environment there was like, and it's not far from Charlotte, and how it's different from some of the other majority PWI schools in South Carolina, like University of South Carolina and Columbia or Clemson University.
Well, surprisingly, South Carolina is a very black PWI, and Winthrop is also has a large percentage. At the time that we were going to Winthrop, it was a large percentage of a black population. It was the second blackest PWI in the state of South Carolina, behind the University of South Carolina. And I think at the time, we had about 20% of the student population that was there, if I'm not mistaken, or something 25. Like that. Yeah, it was pretty high. So there was, I mean, if you come to Winthrop homecoming tailgate party right now, you wouldn't think that this was a PWI. Like the way that the homecoming events are jumping off at Winthrop. But our experience there, we kind of like, I always say that when Troy's class arrived, Winthrop kind of got turned up a little bit because there was I don't know how to say this elegantly, but you know what I mean, the type of people that
the element.
Yeah, and so there was a lot more fun when those guys got on campus. I remember, and I've said this publicly a lot of times, so if somebody gets mad at me about it, I don't care. At this point, it's been 20 years, but I thought that Winthrop was like kind of corny when I first got there, which was perfect for me considering what I left at South Carolina. So, but when it wasn't corny no more when Troy and his crew got there, and so we had like a different type of experience, I think, than what you would traditionally have at a PWI. I think that the one thing that we had was being in the shadow of a major metropolitan area. We were able to experience parties and stuff like that I don't think that other college towns get the experience. So that was a lot of fun for us growing up there. And in particular, after we got out of school, also, I remember I used to call Troy the socialite because this boy wanted to go out Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and sometimes on Sunday.
I bet
am I lying?
Yeah, I bet you were probably on the radar for some of those 3-letter clubs, LeTroy. If you know the 3-letter clubs, you know.
Yeah, I probably was. I mean, I was closely affiliated with people that joined those organizations.
Same
But
here.
I mean, but it's almost similar to the fact that I grew up in a military town, and the Marine Corps is based in Beaufort, Paris Island, and I'm the type where I've always considered myself. Um, I never liked authority. I would always march to the beat of my own drum. So I I take pride in my individuality, and I felt like that would have been compromised somewhat.
Right, right. Me fi me, understand that. You know what I mean? Pledging me fi me since 19. And disclaimer, I'm not a member. I just know people that's in those three-letter organizations. So shout out to all the folks in the three-letter organizations, fraternities, and sororities. And they're about to turn up in, I believe, another week or so, because we're gonna have a female VP about to get inducted into office. She went to the Mecca of HBCUs. HU, Howard University, sorry, Hampton folks, and she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I had to say that because I got family members who are AKA, some who are Deltas, Father, Alpha Alpha, and got a couple of friends who are Alpha. So once again, shout out to everybody in the D9 MPHC. Now I can understand being at a PWI myself. I went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro, which is right up the street from North Carolina A&T. But like kind of similar experience, like you were stating, Mario, you didn't really know that it was a PWI until you saw the other groups sprinkled in. We had a good international population, but you knew Black folks at the campus when it was a basketball season, because we didn't have a football team. We're still undefeated. Holla at your boy. And also when it was probate time.
Yeah, that's similar to our experience at Winthrop. We still like waiting on the time when they're going to get a football team. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but yeah, basketball was always king at Winthrop. I don't think that people flock to the games the way they probably should have. Cause we were there, like I was there for the entirety of the Greg Marshall era at Winthrop, and they went on a run that first year that he got there of NCAA tournaments. And they still have carried on that tradition, even though they're two coaches removed from him now. But yeah, you're right, man. Like that was a big deal for us. For homecoming is around basketball, not because we don't have a football team. So it's in November at the beginning of basketball season for us. So
yeah,
it's a big deal though.
Yeah, my school's homecoming is around October. They call it Fall Fest, big soccer game, and you got the beer garden for the wine and cheese crowd. But then, of course, the Black alums, they would have their own parties, and some of the fraternities, sororities would have their own little reunions with all the members that would show up. And Greg Marshall, for those of you that don't know, he was the former coach of Wichita State. And at my alma mater, we had Fran McCaffrey as our coach for about maybe 2 seasons before he moved on to, I believe it was Siena. And then now he's currently the coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. So big shout out to Fran McCaffrey. And tell me about the experience at the college radio station that went through. Was it a free format? How did you have to get yourself on the station? And share some of your battle scar stories getting on there.
Well, when I got there, people didn't really know that a station existed, right? And it was only a year or two old. A lot of people refer to me as one of the founders. I was not one of the founders of WINR, but my arrival kind of helped people know that it existed because I was a big mouthpiece for it at the time. So shouts to my man Joshua Naipaver, because without him, my career don't get started. I had to audition, and I had to make an audition tape. He was the station manager at the time, and I had to audition for an air shift, and I asked for Friday nights at 10 o'clock because I thought I was going to suck, right? So I figured, a suitcase campus, nobody's going to be around, and the show kind of blew up, even though like people wasn't around, and it was like me by myself initially and stuff. And then my man Thomas, he got on with me, and we started doing a lot more things. And then the following year, a friend of mine from back home in Allendale, he came to Winthrop the same year that Troy came to Winthrop, And we put him on the show with us, and we moved to Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock, and we're starting to do 3-hour shows. But it was a format. It wasn't like it wasn't a set format. You know, you came in and you did your show. It don't matter. Like if you were playing folk music and then you were playing hip hop music, or you were doing sports talk, it was whatever you wanted to do. And unfortunately, that first year that I was there, most of the people that were on the station weren't consistent, and we didn't have consistent programming on, which is why in 1999 I decided, okay, all of that's out the window. Like, I'm going to make sure that I get people who actually want to be here. And I was a part of the station management team, and you know, we had for all the urban content, I was putting that on the air, and then they controlled everything else. So I had urban content on every day, and I had more urban content that was on that radio station than any other kind of type of content that was on for a long period of time. And you know, typically it came about by me meeting people who had an interest in radio, and then you know, we rocked from there. And then they had their own shows. At some point, people were getting put together that may not have meshed well together, but still ended up producing good content, right, Troy?
I guess you could say that. So I'll just jump in with my story. So as Mario mentioned, you know, me and my crew, we sort of came in and we, you know, made a grand entrance and kind of turned the campus topsy-turvy. But I think it was a night I was in my dorm room and like just, you know, skimming through channels. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing Wu-Tang or something. I was like, oh, what the hell is this on this channel? Because I mean, coming from where I'm from, and then you're like on a college campus where, like Mario said, it was kind of corny. Before we arrived, I wasn't really expecting to hear that on the radio. I mean, like I said, I had never even thought about attending college. So, I mean, I had no clue as to just the culture of what I was about to experience. But I also noticed, you know, him and Thomas and Brian handing out flyers, and I think that's what sort of grew the audience amongst you know, college listeners, was the fact that they were walking around the cafeteria and around the yard, and they were, you know, having face-to-face encounters and saying, "Check us out on Wednesday." And if there was an attractive female on campus, they had a shot at being the beauty of the week. So I was
Queen of the
like,
week.
queen of the week, queen of the week.
Ah.
Jet magazine.
Didn't want
It
Jet
was
to come
stolen from
find you and
Jet
shutting you
magazine.
down. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
but I think
Hawkins
my
Hall.
cousin Roger went to the station and did, I guess he was shadowing their show or something.
He
What
wrote
happened?
a paper. He was there to write a paper. And
Okay,
was
so he
writing
wrote
a paper about our show or something like that.
Yeah, so he wrote a paper about the show, and you know, he came back because we were roommates at the time, and it was like, yo, you got to check them fellas out, because like people know me as a music connoisseur. I would make mixtapes, and then I would be the person that would provide the instrumentals for freestyle sessions. So they were like, dude, you have to do a radio show, which of course that's why I was at Winthrop in the first place. So eventually we met, but he neglects to tell his story, and I still have beef with him because of this. So everyone else pretty much got a show out the gate. He made me sit there for what, a semester?
Now
For like several months.
You leaving out the part though. Like, this dude would show up to our show and not say a word. He just walk in, wouldn't speak. He just walk into the radio station and sit down. And he did that for a couple of weeks. You did that for a couple of weeks.
So you were like, I need money from how high?
Yeah. So like,
I mean,
but where we hit it off at was that I was like, all right, this dude come again tonight, man. Like, I'm gonna see what's up with this dude, man. So like, then that night I invited you over to play NBA Live, and we played at like 4:00 in the morning. And then I was like, this might be a cool dude to hang with, on top of, like, you know, the radio stuff. But you never even said that you even wanted to do a radio show.
I mean,
You just was there.
like I just said, I mean, I was in culture shock for the most part. I was just, you know, getting a feel for things. Like when I was a little kid and we moved to Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I knew no one.
Yeah.
I gave my snacks to kids in the neighborhood to make friends. So I was trying to figure out,
You are
because this is the
bribing
first.
them your friendship. Nothing
So this
says
was like my
bribing
first
friends
time.
like fruit gushers.
So this is like my first time, like completely on my own.
Yeah.
Like I said, of course, Roger was with me, and there were a couple other people from my hometown that was also on campus. But I mean, me and Roger couldn't be together 24/7, so I still needed to, grow some wings on my own. So yeah, I was just pretty much feeling people out. I'm an observant person. Like my ears are like a sponge, so I'm sucking up a whole lot of information and figuring out who I can trust and who's gonna be loyal, just things like that. And I just instantly felt the connection to Mario and
You hit it off.
Ryan and Thomas and the other fellas in the crew.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, Mario, that you guys were doing it the old school way, going to Kinko's or whatever, printing out flyers, hand giving it to everybody. Now, my grind was sort of similar. I got on my freshman year. It was more like a club. You applied, you got your show immediately, but I had the graveyard shift. I was doing 2 to 4 a.m. on Saturday mornings.
Oh,
Then
wow.
yeah, man. I used to treat that joint like I was working 12 hours at a paper mill. I would take my shower like at 7 o'clock on Fridays, eat, sleep, set my alarm for like maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock, walk to the station, do my show, and then come back a little bit after 4. And that lasted for maybe about a year before I got bumped to 12 to 2, then 7 to 9 Friday nights. And then my goal time, 9 to 11 a.m., not to 11 p.m., excuse me, on Friday nights. Now, the interesting thing was that in addition to calling everybody's phone on campus through a centralized system, this was back when schools had landlines, left a message promoting my show, I went down to a little embroidery shop that custom made t-shirts. This was right around when Mike Jones was popping, got me a white tee made with the name of my show, and then on the back, the time of the show, and then plug in the website for the school because our campus station was only 16 watts.
Oh, wow. So wait, so did y'all have a stream?
Yeah, so we had live streaming. So I was plugging that heavy. I was like on different forums I was in, plugging the different time zones. My show would come on, and then the WAG website, which was where live streaming was heard. And that kind of leads me to my question. How did you guys find out about the time machine being all the way in Winthrop in Rock Hill, South Carolina?
Well, that would be my story.
Go ahead,
I like to listen to New Jack Swing music. So I was able to discover, I think, was it newjackswingforever.com, which was a website. And the way, I can't remember the owner's name.
Andrew
I'm sure
Knight.
You remember, Jarrell. Yeah, Andrew Knight. The way he had it broken down as far as all of the artists that contributed to New Jack Swing and just like bios of where are they now. That was like a vital resource just for me to catch up on, some of the music that either I missed or hadn't heard in a while. And then they had links to interviews, and most of them was yours from the time machine. So I just started going through and checking out the interviews that I felt was noteworthy at the time. And then I was like, wow, this young man was doing these interviews while in college consistently. So I was impressed. And then I think eventually I reached out to you, and we connected. Like you was mad humble and very, insightful. And I was like, wow, this is what's up. Yeah, I almost looked at you like a celebrity. You kind of inspired us as far as when we started the Good Old Boys and taking that step towards doing celebrity interviews. I think he was very instrumental in that. So I salute you, man. Publicly.
I appreciate you guys, man, because actually before I started the time machine, I got a little bit of pushback from management because they were kind of indie and no commercial music. But I convinced them, like, hey, just let me do what I do and it'll work. And it worked, with, like you said, LeTroy landing these interviews consistently when I'm still considering myself like somebody that hasn't really reached their peak and haven't gotten to where I wanted to be. But to say that, hey, I've interviewed Donnie Simpson, I've interviewed Danny Wood from New Kids on the Block, Maurice Starr, and knowing that I'm still in school, not a lot to my name, it just speaks wonders about how people say, hey, okay, I'm gonna give this guy a shot. And when they get interviewed, they're like, hey, he knows his stuff.
Exactly. And that was something else I noticed was just like how much of a music junkie and historian that you are, because you probably knew more about some of the artists or the subjects than they knew about themselves or where they came from. So that's something that should be applauded.
Now, the thing that when you told me about Jay, you was like, yo, this dude probably know more music than we do combined. And I was like, what? Like, how is that possible? And you probably was right.
I mean, I know he knows more than me, especially because some of the music that he listens to, I'd never heard of before. Some of the artists, even when he's posting on Facebook today, I'm just like, I've never heard of this person. But yeah, like I said, salute to you. Continue pushing and grinding and go for whatever you feel is awaiting you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And with y'all's campus radio setup, did they have a simulcast on the campus TV station where they would pipe in the radio feed?
Well, we had channel 99.
Sound like an all access channel.
Yeah, it was on television. We didn't even have a transmitter initially. All we had was channel 99. And then eventually we got a little small transmitter that you could only hear on campus. And they would do stuff like I remember one of the things that I begged them to do that they only did once, which was put the audio from the radio station in the student center. And I remember me and Thomas and Brian did like a Valentine's Day midday type show. But outside of that, like they didn't, like the school didn't do enough, I felt, to really push the radio station. I don't think they realized what it was that they had with what we were producing. And over the years, I feel like the station hasn't like progressed the way that it probably could have, mainly because of that. Like, it should have been like much further along than what it is now. Like, I think that they just it's only at a height when there's a certain level of radio talent at Winthrop University. And, because, I mean, let's face it, like most people who come to school and get into broadcasting, they're not there to get into radio. They're there to get into television for the most part. But, over the years, there's been waves of radio talent that was at Winthrop. A lot of them have come and been working for us with GOB Radio Network over the years. But I do think that that they don't have the transmitter anymore. But another friend of mine that had worked with me at a local radio station, he set up the streaming there. So I know they still have the streaming if they still producing radio the way that they were. They had the streaming set up, and I don't think they have a television station anymore. But that was the difficult part of getting people to listen. You had to be in your room and you had to listen on channel 99 on your television. And that's why we started handing out the flyers and stuff, because that's the only way people was going to know about it. And we put those flyers up everywhere. And initially we started just posting them up, around campus and stuff. That ain't did the trick though. It was talking to people and putting it in their hands. That's what did the trick.
Right. And it was pre-social media, or social media was in its infancy.
But you had Black Planet and College Club and
Crush
stuff like
Spot.
that.
We're aging ourselves. If you remember Black Planet or Crush Spot or getting it on in the Yahoo Chat ASLR.
Oh, hey, Yahoo Chat is how I started, like in internet like stuff, man. Like
some of y'all probably got catfished on Yahoo Chat before it became popular.
I was catfishing people. I would like work on material.
So you was deep pimping before deep pimping.
Yeah.
Mario would find this hard to believe. Like, I never really had accounts to any of those.
You never had a Black Planet?
I had one. I wasn't really active on it. I
Yeah.
wasn't really active on any of them. So
Probably
that
put
was
some stock
surprising.
photos up.
I'm like similar to you, man. I had the accounts. I was not active at all. I didn't really get into social media because I don't think I like you got me to get on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, because that's where we started the show and everything. But I had a MySpace. You know,
MySpace. Shout out to Tom in his top 8.
Yeah, MySpace was cool, man. It was
that's how I got most of my interviews through MySpace, man. MySpace, man, was popping for a minute. And then of course, Facebook, when it first came out, it was originally for college students. Cause I was hesitant to get on it at first because everybody was hopping on it. And I was like, let me go ahead and get on it. And it was cool. And then when they opened it up to everybody, that was when the game really changed. And then Twitter came in, and like I said, social media, our lives are not the same without it. So kids nowadays be like, what do you mean I have to keep 35 cents in my pocket and use a phone that's down the corner?
Oh, hey, yo. Nah, I don't want to date myself that much.
You probably still got a beeper somewhere in your drawer, Mario.
Nah, I don't have one anymore, man. I used to have a page, and
pharmaceutical rep part-time. The statute of limitations not up.
But I knew where all the payphones were in Fairfax, and I kept a quarter or 35 cents. So if I needed to get to it, I had to get to it. So they don't have I asked my daughter is 12 years old, man, and she don't have any clue about payphones and that like that. That's like foreign to her because she ain't never seen a house phone.
Right.
that long cord, you couldn't stretch it all the way too far. Man. Let them see a rotary phone. Like, how do I dial this? Don't try to dial long distance on the rotary phone because you'll be dialing forever. Even more so if you have to do an international call.
You had to get that super long cord so you could bring the phone into your room and everything. So
and remember you had to tell everybody hey, call me back until my minutes are free at 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, those were the good old days. But do you remember the studio setup at Winthrop? Did you guys use CD cards? Did you guys use an earlier form of audio vault?
Oh no, not no audio vault. We had 8-track carts, and then we had a CD player, and we had a tape player, cassette player. But we mostly used the CD player, and then we would I don't know if this thing is still in existence. Original Hip Hop Lyrics Archive.com. We used to go to that because we played like underground hip hop and stuff like that, especially on Troy show. Yeah. The Dungeon.
So I did 2 shows before we did the Good Old Boys. So I did the Dungeon, which was an underground hip hop show with Kelly Usher, aka Muddy Underground, and Fatback, Ronnie Wilson. And then I did a show called The Bedroom. So that was the Quiet Storm type show that I did.
That was me and you together on The Bedroom.
Yeah, me and Mario teamed up for that. And then I also did it with Promise Young, who's still a radio personality in Charlotte to this day. So with original hip hop lyrics, we would print out the lyrics for a song. So say back in 2000, say DMX playing What These Itches Want. And we would go through the lyric sheet with a highlighter, and every time there's a curse word, we'd highlight it. And then when we played a song, we would just edit it out.
Noise. Yeah. So that's something that I created that first year because I was like, man, I got to figure out a way to play the music that I want to play. You know what I'm saying? So and it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Friday night, nobody on campus, nobody's really listening. So I could experiment and stuff. And that's when, we figured out, okay, we could kill, that's not going out over the airwaves. So that'll work, but you gotta work. You know what I'm saying? You can't be sitting there chilling with your peoples and stuff like that. But the cool thing, the best part about that studio was that it had the upstairs was where the studio was actually, where we were located. And then there was a downstairs area that was supposed to be a production studio, but it was nothing in there. And we had we would invite guests to the studio.
Yes,
yes, and they would sit down there, and we remember we had the Valentine's party where we had like every single girl that was on campus. If you didn't have a date for Valentine's, you go have a a date with all of us, and we did a special program. We had cookies and other snacks and drinks and stuff like that. Man, I liked that setup. They changed it after we left and put the studio where that production was, and then I don't think anybody could have gotten up to the upstairs part anymore. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, like Mario, Brian, and Thomas, they were known as the Royal Palace. So they were pretty much like the stars of like the urban cluster of shows on WINR, and then you had the Laboratory with Q,
Yes.
who's one of the good old boys, and you had, what was the name of Wafiq's show?
I can't remember.
He would always play a lot of
Monday nights. Egyptian
80s,
Lover.
yeah, and Soap Pop Bionic and like Nucleus Jam on it, stuff like that.
Egypt.
Yeah.
And then we had the ladies. We had Tiana and Gayleen.
Yeah.
The Penthouse.
That was Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Wednesday nights a 4-hour show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then Simon. See, so the thing is, most of the people that was doing shows for Winthrop back in 99, 2000, 2001, they're part of GOB Radio Network now. So that's where we sort of like forged that bond, and it's still tight to this day.
We had a jazz show. Man, Jay Dean did a jazz show.
AKA the Rugged Child.
Yeah, man. We had shows on a lot, man. Like Monday nights, I think it was all us the whole Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's great. Yeah, because our setup was when I was there my freshman sophomore year, we shared the same building with the drama students because up above would be the stage where they would do their productions. So whenever it was theater season, we would have to close our doors so that way the sounds from both areas wouldn't overlap. And then across the street was the police station, and you would see the security guard coming in, checking to make sure everything was good. Our setup was 3 Denon CD carts, 2 Technique 1200s turntables, and an early version of Audio Vault. And most of the music I played, I used some of the R&B and hip hop that was in the station, but majority of it was coming from my own personal collection. Yeah. So I had to time some of the selections that had the 7 dirty words that you can't say over FCC airways to make sure that we didn't get light in the wallet. So I was sitting there kind of monitoring with the start and stop switch on whatever CD cart was playing, hit it real quick, but okay, I know that's there. Hit it quick, I know that's there. And then once I found out about the safe harbor hours, I'm like, okay, I got a little bit more leeway, a little bit more wiggle room, because nobody's listening to me at 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I could kind of get away with a little bit more.
No doubt, man. Like we did early days. I don't know if you guys had started yet. Maybe, yeah. But I remember I used to have to write record labels, try to get them to send us records. And then a lot of times they would send vinyl. And we had a record player in there that we rarely used. But the one that I remember getting, yeah, you definitely were around for this because this was after Pun died. But I got the Big Pun Is So Hard on vinyl. Mm-hmm. And then I think I ended up giving it away. Like we did a contest or something and gave it away to I think Eric Fisher, if I'm not mistaken, was the one who ended up getting it because he used to come.
He's a DJ
in there. Yeah, he would DJ, and like we would invite him in to DJ sometimes. He'd bring his equipment and plug in and then go to work or whatever, man. So those were like taking me down memory lane, man. Like, I had forgotten about a lot of this stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Then by the time my junior year hit, we moved to the 3rd floor of the Brown building, which is where a lot of the broadcasting classes would be held. And it had more like a TRL vibe where I could look outside the window, overlook the main strip on campus. I felt like Carson Daly wanted to invite a girl up to the studio and just hang out. And I even found myself attempting to do some IDs that were trying to sound similar to what Rick Allen was doing with Hot 97, like from the top of the Empire State Building, I would do from the top of the Brown Building, kind of like my own little similar spin to that. So we had a cool mixture of everything. We had folk, we had hip hop, we had In the Beat of the Night, which was underground hip hop, still going to this day. Shout out to my boy Prez, who will be on Beyond the Album Cover coming soon. We also had the Trauma Center. Shout out to my boy Section 8, A-Town. That's 2 hours live mixing, scratching, cutting. And it would be like maybe once a year we would do a collab where it would be the Time Machine Trauma Center, where the shows would cross over and they would mix on my show, where it'd be like straight 2 hour mix, kind of like on your standard R&B hip hop station, where you have like your live mixes on Fridays and Saturday nights. Now, being that Winthrop was so close to Charlotte, did you guys interact a lot with Johnson C. Smith and UNC Charlotte students and vice versa?
Not at all, really. Not at all. Like, and I will say, with the show that Q used to host, which was on Thursday nights, The Lab, that was like a freestyle type situation going on there, man, where he worked at a record store in Rock Hill, and he met like every like hip hop artist in the area. They would come into there, and then he would invite them to the lab, and then they would freestyle, and like I mean like every Thursday, they had that going on there, and but outside of that, man, like we didn't really interact much with anybody outside of like our circle, didn't do much of that. We probably should have.
Yeah, and I'll say like even during my extracurricular time, we never really would hang out at Johnson C. Smith. I know we went to a few parties at UNC Charlotte, but because me and my crew was always hosting parties, people was at our house, and
Especially once y'all got that house. Ooh.
right, yeah. So we were always hosting parties. So it was really no time for us to leave Charlotte and leave Rock Hill ahead of Charlotte.
Yeah, I didn't really mingle too much with folks from A&T. I did go over to the campus of Guilford College a few times because I had a friend that had a hip hop show out there. So me and another friend of mine, who is now the lead sports anchor for WRL TV5 out in the Raleigh Durham TV market. Shout out to Chris Lee.
Chris, I know him.
Yeah. So he
Word,
actually
man.
started in radio a semester after I did, came onto my show, learned the ropes, got his own show, and progressed to now where he's the first primarily African-American sports anchor in WRL history. So big shout out to my boy Chris, breaking barriers. We had Jessamine Stanley come out of there. She's very big on YouTube doing yoga and everything like that. She got her start on WUAG. Emmylou Harris, I think she did a stint on WAG, country artist. So I've actually found her record at the station, and it had Play Me. I used to go here, so I would kind of occasionally give it a spin. But I say to anybody that still wants to get into radio, college radio is definitely a good training ground for you to get your chops up, get your reps up. So by the time you take that internship on at the big station and hopefully get on at the station, you kind of have an idea of what to do and also have some seasoning under your belt.
Amen. No, I encourage everybody, if they want to work in radio, you like the best way to start is because you're not going to get any on-air shifts without any experience. And the way to get the experience, to get yourself a tape and all that stuff, is to do it while you're in college, on the college radio station. And it's the best way to do it. And I've had like so many times, because that's how we discovered some of the other talent that ended up on GOB Radio Network, was listening to WINR. When we found Jasmine, like we weren't even checking for Jasmine. We were listening to another show, and then kept listening.
Yeah, on Sunday evenings there was 3 straight shows. So one of them was by someone that I was friends with. So I was primarily checking her show out, but I had nothing to do that Sunday evening, so I listened to 3 straight shows, and eventually all 3, ended up doing something with GOB Radio Network. And then most notably was Jasmine, who she was the youngest of the 3, but you could just tell that she had it.
Yeah.
Just from that.
You gotta listen to her, man. She got some talent, man. I remember that conversation.
And on the sidebar, really quickly, I don't know if I told y'all this, but I got family in South Carolina.
Oh, where?
Yeah, my dad and my aunt, they are in Colombia, and my dad actually pastors a church out of Camden.
Camden. That's what's up, man.
Yeah, Camden,
Yeah.
South Carolina. He actually stays not too far from South Carolina's campus. And if you have not been to California Dreaming in Colombia,
Oh yeah.
let me
Man,
tell you, the
of course.
Crescent Rolls. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
The Crescent Rolls
How
from
that-
there, Quincy's and Texas Roadhouse. Those are my top 3 best rolls of all time, with Ryan's
Quincy.
being the honorable mention.
The big fat yeast roll.
Yeah, I think there's still a Quincy's in Florence. Shout out to Florence, South Carolina. I think it's on TV Road. So free advertising for you all.
There used to be
Quincy's.
one in Rock Hill.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, I think it turned into a Hardee's, and then it turned into a Mexican restaurant or something else.
Ooh, so it sounds like a
Can't remember.
restaurant that didn't really last too long, and
I mean, it was there for a long
constantly
time, but
change.
you know, I thought that Quincy's was gone from everywhere by this point.
Right. So
I mean, back in the day, that was like the definition of a ideal date. Like you're impressing someone by taking them to Quincy's.
What?
Like,
What?
I'm just saying, back in the day, back like in the
No.
80s.
So when that refund check hit, you was taking your girl to Quincy's, LeTroy?
No, bro.
Nah, you asking the wrong person that question, because if
You
you know
like-
me, if you know me, I'm not really.
You ain't taking
I'm
no
not.
So you telling her, hey, order off the dollar menu from McDonald's and we call it a date?
Nah, they're like, you know, no, you ain't as bad as Wafik though.
Yeah.
Wafik is gonna make you go Dutch everywhere. You know,
Hey, fellas, I'm letting you know, this is for somebody that's happily married. Don't go Dutch. Don't go Dutch. Going Dutch spells
You know.
doom. If you
Nah,
want to put a ring on it, fellas, don't go Dutch.
With me, we take turns. So one date I'll pay, and then the next date she'll pay.
and I'm from the philosophy that it's your job to take care of it all the time.
Okay.
Right. Now, fellas, I'm gonna tell you this: if your funds is looking kind of funny, hope that if you're in college, here's what you do: hope that your refund check hit. If your refund check don't hit right away, this is back when you still had to buy textbooks. You would take your textbooks to the student store, buy them back, knowing good and well you're not gonna get the same value what you paid for them. Hopefully, get you a little change so that way you can scrounge up enough money and maybe say, hey, I ain't got enough money to take you to Quincy's or Stakeout, but we can go half and half on this Chick-fil-A in the student union.
Nah, like
Nah, tell them my embarrassing story
what's that?
about going to the mall.
Oh no!
Hey, I gotta hear this. I gotta hear this. I gotta hear this one.
We used to go to Carolina Place Mall in Pineville, which is like in between Rock Hill and Charlotte, right? And we went there one day, and Troy had gotten a credit card. And he had the credit card, and then he had a keychain that was supposed to be the credit card also, right?
Yeah.
And we went to this jersey store. Like they had like, you know, this was back when throwbacks was like, this is like, you know, the fabulous
Shout out
days.
to Fabulous.
You know, like when the throwbacks was like the in vogue thing to do.
Mitchell and Ness.
So he wanted to cop a Walter Payton, right? And the Walter Payton was like $300. And I was like, Dad, this dude about to buy this Walter Payton. So he gets up to the counter with the jersey, and they ring it up, and then he like acting like Big Willie. Pulled the wallet out, grabbed a credit card, and just slide it on the table.
Oh, you think you high
And,
roller?
Of course, it was declined. And then it was declined. Then he tried with the little keychain
mini card.
and that, of course, got declined too.
Ooh, don't you get trying to flex?
I was dying, and there was a line behind us.
Man, the attendant did pull you to the side and give you
dying.
that whisper, like, "Hey, my man."
Yeah, you know, ain't nothing.
Nah,
How you wanna do that,
we
dog?
slid out of there, you know, quickly. Like I didn't look anybody in the eye. We left, and of
So
course
you had
Mario.
that walk of shame out the store.
Yes, sir. Dang.
Ooh, good
Yeah,
thing,
because I
good
was
thing
like,
you.
I could have swore that card was was good.
Ooh,
And
you did call
and
the
I had
number to
that.
start it, man. Good thing you didn't try that at Concord Mills or South Park
It
Mall.
wasn't even a credit card, was it?
I don't think so.
It was a debit card, and you thought you had like money on it.
Oh man, I never had that story, but man, let me tell you the story when I first got my refund check. Right, so all right, boom. I come from my 10 o'clock class. I go check my mailbox. I see this check in there. I open it up. I'm like, oh, this for a nice little chunk of change. So this is pre-direct deposit. So I went to the ATM on campus, deposited my check in my account. Then the next thing I did, I went to the Four Seasons Mall in Greensboro when he got me a nice little shirt or whatever. Then 2 nights later, me and a group of friends went out to Chili's. I thought I was big balling, right? I said, I want steak and shrimp. And how I paid for it, straight cash, homie. Shout out to Randy Moss.
Yeah, with the refund check.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, refund checks, man. If you don't know about that college struggle, you be happy when that refund check hit, because before that check hits, you eating bologna sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, cereal, hot dogs. You make a large piece of stretch for a couple of days.
Right. This is why I don't like ramen noodles that much.
I don't mess with oodles and noodles. I never messed with oodles and noodles in college, but I had a bunch of friends that had those cup of noodles. They would tear those things up like clockwork.
And we had luckily for us, like especially once Troy and them got to campus, because I never forget, Kareem could cook. And I remember you bringing plates of food over from what Kareem had cooked in the basement of Richardson in the kitchen. And I remember you made some barbecue chicken and some cornbread and stuff one day. Well, that thing was like real good.
My man should have made some plates on the side, sold them for like $5 a plate. Hey, that's a nice little side hustle.
Yeah, my grandfather's a farmer, so I was kind of living with him during the summer because my parents had moved to Alabama, and I left a coat or a jacket or something. So he shipped me a coat in a box, and it included sweet potato. And
a box of sweet potato.
And we made yams and all kinds of stuff with it. So yeah.
You were hiding the rest of the yams, but not at Auntie's house though.
No, it was at Granddaddy's.
It was at Granddaddy's house. But yeah, them yams, sweet potato pies. Hey, cut your side there with a cap. Like, hey dog, I got these bushels of sweet potatoes. I'm making these sweet potato pies. You give me half off of my meal plan. What do you want to do?
Now we used to steal. We would take.
He used to steal.
Borrow.
No, me, Thomas, and Brian would go. We would sneak into the cafeteria, and we would leave the cafeteria early enough to actually use our meal plan at the student center and get more food to take back. For that fourth meal that you got to eat later at night, man. So
I was never that bold to take food out the caf. I ate when I ate, but primarily I ordered out Chinese pizza. By the time my first year, and I looked at the balance, like, woo, I spent a nice little change on delivery. But cafeteria food was on point, breakfast was on point. And the most lonely time when you're in college is when you're that one person that's sitting in the caf with nobody, you by yourself, and you got a whole bunch of people with a crew, and you sitting there all your lonesome while eating a grilled cheese or fried chicken or whatever they happen to be cooking that day. Fried chicken day was Wednesdays in my alma mater, by the way.
Fried chicken. Y'all had fried chicken every Wednesday.
Yeah, fried chicken day. They would fry the chicken up real nice. The line be extra long. You get that chicken. This was before I started eating hot sauce on my chicken, right? So you get the chicken, take a bite into it. It's nice and crispy. It's tender, and everybody's like running for it. It was like the pre-Popeyes chicken sandwich effect. Whenever chicken day would be in effect on Wednesdays at the cafe UNCG, but breakfast was always most attended. The waffle machines, you could hardly get on the waffle machines because everybody would be up on waffles. It was either be waffles, the pizza line, or grilled cheese.
I do remember when I was at Carolina, and they had I think it was Thursdays. They had ribs, and that place used to be jam packed, man. On that day, I don't ever remember having ribs at Winthrop. Yeah.
So where they fall off the bone ribs, or were they kind of like
Oh
the
no,
McRib?
hell no.
Oh, they got
Oh,
it in
yeah.
that box, and you don't know what it is. So it's like mystery meat.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was okay.
Hey, when you're a
Considering you
broke
ain't
college
had
student, you
to,
eat
like,
whatever.
you know, like
Like,
right.
I'm paying for it, and then my declining balance
Yeah.
looking kind of low. I can't go to the student union, eat at Burger King or Chick-fil-A. But the game changer at my school was when your declining balance and your e-cash could roll over to the following semester. So
Oh, wow.
when somebody said, "Hey man, I'm running low on my balance," you got me. Like, "Hey man, I got you." Going to the school store, get you what you need, even though the price is high. But
Hey, so
still, you ain't driving all the way to Walmart to
wait.
get something, even though your school may gather right there. But we had 2 Chick-fil-A's on campus. That's why I don't really eat Chick-fil-A as
You
much
see
no
what I'm
more, because
saying?
I OD'd on it heavy.
So like we didn't have none of that at Winthrop, man.
We
Like
had
we
Pizza
had
Hut.
Pizza Hut was it.
Subway.
And Subway, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Now when I was at Carolina, we had Chick-fil-A, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell,
But once
like
again, look at
all
where
that
you
kind of
at.
stuff.
Look at where you at. You in
Yeah.
SEC country. You know they gonna feed them
Yeah.
well.
It was dope there, but like at Winthrop, it was just Pizza Hut and that Subway. That was it, man. And then I mean, like as time progressed, after we left, they had the Popeyes, and I think that was it that they added. Like that was
Yeah,
I'm,
my
I'm
Oh,
at,
school,
Starbucks there now.
yeah,
I'm
man,
at
my school
UNC
came up
Chapel
too
Hill
after
now.
I left, because they put a Bojangles inside one of the student dormitories and a little diner. I'm like, man, I thought I was doing it big when we got a school store in the apartment style dorm that I stayed at, and these kids got a Bojangles. Now, if you're not from the South, Bojangles is a Southern thing. It's better than churches. It's better than
It is
KFC.
not actually.
It's better than Raising Cane's.
What?
It's
What?
better than Popeyes. Don't at
I
me.
don't like Bojangles, bro.
What?
I have a friend.
You
I
know
have a
that's
friend
sacrilege,
from
right?
Cleveland. I have a friend from Cleveland that has to get Bojangles before returning.
Hey
Why?
man, Bojangles is crack. Where else can you get a 3-piece and a Cajun filet biscuit all day
But
long?
it's not good though. Like Popeyes is way better. I mean, and we OD'd on churches also.
They were
That
the
was
worst.
they
No,
were
no.
awful. It was like $5 for like a 10-piece.
And the guy liked me.
Yeah, that dude did like you. Where did you get your shirt?
So you got the hookup, also free chicken. You had
Yeah.
to dress kind of like, hey, yo, I like that shirt you got on. Hey, I threw an extra
I'll add a
in your box. Hey man, that's how you do it.
I
But
was
when you're a
a
college student
starving-
and broke, you
Yep.
will treasure those
Starving college
restaurants that
student.
have those college discounts. Show your ID, get a 2-piece for like $4. But when I got to Greensboro, I first discovered the greatness that is Cookout.
Oh yeah.
Cookout. If you don't know what Cookout is a North Carolina-based chain. They're expanding throughout the Southeast, where for like $5, you can get your choice of a burger,
Everything.
chicken, hot dog, barbecue tray, not one, but 2 sides and a drink.
And they really known for their milkshakes.
Hey, have some thick lungs because them jokers are thick, and it's definitely a good meal. Let's say if you're coming from a night at an after-hour spot, partying, smelling like a little substance, which I don't partake in. I know of people who partake in that substance, but it's definitely a good late night meal to kind of get you through until breakfast hits. That or Waffle House.
First time I ever went to a cookout was the one on Freedom Drive in Charlotte. We went there after we went to Onyx long time ago. You remember that?
Yeah,
and then I think like a week later, somebody got clapped out there.
Yeah, that sounds like the name of a club where people would say, let me go to my car. It is not to get the license and registration. You know, when they say, let me go to my car, you know it's about to go down.
Hey,
that's why I never went to nightclubs. I always sat by the exit if I did.
Bro, we would go places like 10, 15 deep, except for when it was just me and the socialite and you and and we would go to like places like the V Lounge, and I'd be in there basically by myself because you would just be bouncing around.
I mean, I would find somebody to go with me. I never had to go by myself.
Yeah, but I hated going.
I mean, because there would be college night at different establishments every night of the week. So I was like, okay, it's free before 11 o'clock. So we got to get there by like 10:15 in case they're like delaying the line and holding people from going in. We got to get there so we can get in for free.
And then girls know that you was broke anyway if you came before 11.
I mean, I was 24, 25 years old.
Man,
so
let me set the scene real quick for those that may not be familiar how club nights work. Now, in some areas, depending on where you're at, college night can normally fall between, I'd say, Thursday through Sunday, depending on where you're at. Now,
sometimes it was Tuesday.
Well, in Greensboro, most of the college nights primarily fell between Thursday and Sunday. So one nightclub will have a college night, but it'll be primarily where us would go. And then another club would have a college night where they would go. They would have polos, khakis, like they're about to go yachting or somewhere. While at the nightclub we would partake in, it would be more of where, the element, and I say this loosely, the element was going to be deep. And you knew that when certain folks from the element show up, you knew that not firecrackers would pop off. It would be the Arm and Hammer would pop off.
Yeah, I would go to clubs like back home in Beaufort where it was like a teen night on Sunday nights. And that's where I would experience the most shootouts was at Picasso's. So
Studio, what's that place y'all at? Studio 7. Yeah, don't go there, especially if you ain't from Beaufort.
They're closed.
It's closed down there?
Yeah.
Man, Picasso's, it don't sound like a club where violence would happen. To me, it kind of sounds like a club where it's all family friendly, kind of like Chuck E. Cheese.
Any place you go in the low country.
Jarrell,
in South Carolina.
This was the era when, like
I said, I'm not a nightclub guy. Like when you see the scene in Atlanta when Donald Glover was in the jail, and when the guy was telling him stop being weird, I'm Donald Glover.
This was back when, like, 3-6 Mafias tear the club up.
Yes.
So ATL Crunk era, any type of ATL Crunk era 3-6, a fight was gonna start if any of those joints would play. Somebody throw a chair in the center.
Yeah, they were throwing chairs in the club and it hit the DJ and the music
crazy.
stopped.
And then the DJ like, hey, this is why we as the people can't have anything. That's why we need to go in places and act properly. Shout out to Jay-Z and 22 Tools for that. I say that all the time whenever I see some of us at the internet acting a fool.
There was one time I didn't care. So me and my boy Cadis, we rode together. So instead of parking in Picasso's parking lot, there was a gas station next to it. So I parked at the gas station.
I wouldn't trust parking my car in the gas station parking lot. Your car probably get jacked.
So I had a female, and we were in the front seat, and Jay-Z's Jigga What Jigga Who was playing, and Cadis was standing near the trunk, and I was doing my thing, and then we hear gunshots, and we just told her to jump in the back seat, and we got out of there. Cadis jumped in, and we bounced. But yeah, that was a weekly occurrence, like gunshots after the club shut down.
And that's why I stay at home and in my dorm.
Bro, no, we used to go to the Spaceship Lounge in Georgia, in Sylvania, Georgia, and we would park like coming back towards Allendale because them dudes used to be tripping when they see somebody that they see those South Carolina tags, and my cousin had got stabbed in the leg in there one night. Like that,
it was that serious where they didn't mess with SC cats like that.
Oh, they didn't want you down there, man. It was territorial, man. like just how it was, man. It was like that, and even in my county, where like Allendale people didn't like Fairfax people, and Fairfax people didn't want Allendale people coming to their spots. Like it was just stupid stuff, man. But that's how it was in the 90s. So
yeah, these kids nowadays won't understand the adventures of going to a club that looks kind of suspect. Maybe the bouncer at the door. And you're trying to talk to a young lady and the music's all loud, and then you had to find something to write her number down on.
One of my homies was one of the bouncers, so just know that it was stuff inside of clubs several times. 18
to dip, 21 to sip. That's the tagline. If you know, you know. 18 to dip, 21 to sip. Man, those were the days. So, how did Good Old Boys come about? And tell us about the programming that we can find on GOB.
So the Good Old Boys radio show. Well, first we'll show you the original logo. But so 2004. So Mario had already graduated. Hopefully, he'll share his story of like how he rose through the ranks of radio, because I think that's an inspiring story within itself. But um, I was I was listening to one of my mix CDs. This one in particular had nothing but TV theme songs and commercials on it, and for whatever reason, the Dukes of Hazzard theme song just sparked an idea. You know, that light bulb moment. I get that on occasion, and I had a light bulb moment when I heard Dukes of Hazzard, and I was like, the Good Old Boys. So then I think the idea was to do like kind of make it like an in living color type of a show for radio where we're doing skits and whatnot. And it was myself and Mario and our friend Kimberly Shaw, who's an amazing poet. So if you get a chance,
shout to Martin Smith, because we took over his time slot because he had 2 shows that he was doing at WINR. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so me, Mario, and Kimberly, we got together. I don't think I had ever done radio with Kimberly before, but she would always make guest appearances on the Royal Palace and dropping some of her pieces. And we just started brainstorming. I worked in the library in college, which I still do to this day. And I was just going through like the juvenile collection, the kids' books. And that's how I was generating ideas for the show, was while I was perusing the library. And I would come up with skits like a Reading Rainbow skit that we did. I remember us doing something on George Bush, George W. Bush, and Saddam Hussein. I think Mario was Saddam or something, and he said something. I'm sure we can't repeat, but
it sounds very politically incorrect. Something you can't say now.
Very, very.
But I enjoyed that show because it was different. It was allowing us to improvise and think on our feet, because all we had primarily was, we're gonna do a Reading Rainbow skit. Troy, you're gonna be LeVar Burton. Mario and Kim, you're gonna be the kids, introducing a book. And we would just freestyle. So I love that. I was like, yeah. So we did that my final semester, and then it basically faded away. In 2009, me and Wafiq, we're both here in the Triangle. I was in Chapel Hill, and Wafiq's in Raleigh, and we both had an itch to do radio again. And Duke was allowing people that was unaffiliated with the university to come in and do radio shows. So we started showing up, going through the training, and I want to say December of 2008. I want to say me and Mario had a conversation with my former roommate and friend Octavius Burris, and he was starting a website with promoting like old school music, and he wanted us to, he wanted to see if we could contribute and do a radio show that could promote his website. And me and Mario discussed it. We already had ideas, and we just came with our ideas. Brought the Good Old Boys back. But instead of Kimberly, Mario was like, let's use Wafiq and Q. And the rest is history as far as the 4 of us. We've been going 12, 13 years strong now.
Okay, Mario, you have anything you want to add to LeTroy's story?
Yeah, that's about it, man. We struggled to find time to record, where to record. I guess the statute of limitations is up now. So we used to use the radio station that I was working at, we used to use we used it like once or twice. And then we started using like we went out and bought equipment and started recording like at my place. But then, because of my work schedule being so crazy, Troy and Wafit used to have to drive down here, and like that was like once a month at that time, maybe. And we would record like 4 or 5 shows at a time. It was a lot of work. And we were on streetfameradio.com. I don't know if that's still around.
It's not.
But shouts to my man, what's his name, Kevin.
Kevin Hickman or something?
Yeah, Kevin Hickman. We like the website used to crash, man. Like because like we built our fan base on Facebook because it was all the people that used to check us out when we were at Winthrop. So all of our friends from Winthrop. And the website used to crash. But then we moved on to Podomatic, I think, and build a fan base there. And then we like we took a couple of breaks and stuff here and there and stuff, and now we're on Mixcloud and on our website gobradionetwork.com. Got all the other shows popping as well. We got more stuff that we're getting ready to do as well. This ain't it. We there's a lot of stuff in the chamber,
in the oven.
Yeah, that's going to launch real soon.
The whole clip hasn't been emptied yet.
Nah,
never that.
We got so much.
Okay, I'm reloaded.
It's unlimited.
Yeah,
it's unlimited.
Yeah,
but me and this guy, man, like we I'm rocking, but me and this guy, man, we just like we push each other creatively, and he sent a show today.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I think we had a conversation about it.
We never had a conversation because I thought of this. See, we did the show that aired last week. I made a comment, and a lot of times I create based off of what we say on previous shows. So I'll just go ahead and get a spoiler. I made a comment about Lifetime movies and how much I hate them when I have company over for the weekend. So then I'm
trying to watch the game.
Yeah. So today I was like, you know what? I'm gonna create a show, an episode that's called A Lifetime Movie.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be put together as if it's a Lifetime movie, and then we're gonna discuss what usually happens in a Lifetime movie.
Right.
Because they all seem to have the same plot.
And and now he tells you that, and then that show might not end up getting recorded until sometime next year. we got, honestly, we got probably 50, 60 shows that's on deck that we haven't even recorded yet. He creates, I think you probably create like 75, 80% of the shows, and then I'll come with a 1 or 2 here and there and stuff. So like of the shows that we haven't recorded yet, man, like it's we have to modernize them sometimes. You know what I mean? Because like we'll have something like one of the shows that we recently recorded was like
5 years old.
5 years old, man, and it ended up being like one of the best shows that I think that we've done. I'm talking about the women who have kids.
Yeah, House Arrest.
Yeah, House Arrest. That one. Yeah, like that show was super old.
Yeah, and, that was while I was happy in a situation, and then now that situation is completely behind me, and then we record that show, and people might think that it was about her, but it wasn't.
It's not at all.
Yeah,
it was inspired by somebody totally different.
But I like to compare us to LaFace, L.A. Reid, and Babyface. Mario is L.A. Reid, and I'm Babyface.
That's a good comparison.
Because he's the business mind, and he keeps everything in order. He's good with the other talent, whereas I like to just be a mad scientist and be alone. And like I said, he'll handle everyone, and I'll focus on making sure we have consistent content.
We work great together. Like if we launch a new program, like his ear is like crazy to me, and like a lot of times, like I'll be thinking about something, but then like I'll just say, "You listen to this, check this out," or whatever, and then typically like we'll be on the same page about how something sounds or whether or not.
Mm. So tell me about how now we're in a crucial space with
But
radio and the
I'll
internet.
say Mario doesn't really argue. I'm the one that's the asshole, and he takes it. So yeah, that would be a surprise. I think most people would look at it as the other way around, where Mario would be the one that would be fussing and complaining, and I'd just be like, man.
And that's crazy.
We mesh well together, and then our whole group, man, like it's like Voltron, man, like what I mean, like we when we get together, man, like which is rare that we all even are able to get together, um, especially during COVID times, and that's one of the things that really hurt us, because we had a big meeting with the whole network uh, right before COVID hit, and a lot of the stuff that we planned on doing in 2020 didn't happen. Doesn't look like it's going to be able to happen in 2021. So here we come, 2022.
Right, tabling it for 2022. Now I want to get both you guys take on this. Anyone can answer, or both you can. It feels like we're in a space now with the internet that radio is almost like going by way of the 8-track VHS and Betamax, where podcasting and streaming, it makes it so to where I can plug in anything I want at any time. I don't have to sit and listen for a song anymore. How does radio adapt to the current state that we're in an instant available world? And then also the fact of owning your own media brand, media content, as we're seeing with Jamel Hill over at Vice with Carrie Champion, Michael Hill on Peacock, and 85 South with Chico Bean, Carlos Miller, and DC Youngfly.
I'll just answer quickly since he's in the industry, directly making decisions. But I feel like radio has put themselves in this position because they were always trying to appease um, the music industry, and then I think the product suffered because it's difficult to listen to the radio for more than 30 minutes. Like I'll listen to the Breakfast Club. I mean, because I love the personalities on the show, but the music is horrible. I mean, rest in peace. But there's only so many times I can hear this individual song. I'm not going to say his name, but
I know.
I'm sure you all know who I'm talking about. Or who else? Roddy Ricch. They still been playing Roddy Ricch's song, and they debuted it like December or November of 2019, and they're still playing The Box and the song with DJ Mustard. They're still playing it daily, multiple times. It's like you can't tell me there's 5 or 10 more songs that came out within the last 2 months that you could put in rotation, like hers, Damage, or you could play something off of Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels, or you can play, SZA's new songs. I mean, there's plenty of other music besides hearing the same 5, 6 songs all day. So I'll just say that, and I'll let Mario take it from there.
I want to piggyback on what you were saying about like the music that you hear. This is because I think when you have a situation where you have only a handful of companies owning all of the radio stations that you hear music from, those playlists are being dictated in a way. And what's an A track, what's a B track, what's a C track? Why some of this stuff is still an A track after 2 years in rotation, I don't understand. But I don't do music radio, so I know with the proliferation of podcasting and how it has changed broadcast radio, is that from my perspective, it's a way to find new talent. I don't think that what we used to see with radio in terms of I saw an interview with Ed Lover a couple of days ago, and he was talking about how he was making $850,000 a year at one point. That's never going to happen again for typical radio time. I'm pretty sure that the Breakfast Club combined might be making that. Not, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way they're making that kind of money because you're just not going to invest that kind of money into one personality anymore. I think radio has gotten to a point where it's not even personality driven when you're talking about music radio, because for the most part, voice tracking is happening all across the country where you have like if you're iHeartMedia and iHeart has one voice talent that's on in Miami, well, he may voice track uh, Philly, Vegas, Jacksonville,
Detroit, Denver.
like all of that, all at the same time. And I think that that's one of the things that is hurting radio, because radio is the last, to me, is the last local, truly local medium where you can reach out and touch those on air talents. I don't have that issue as much with talk radio and sports talk radio because it's not as driven by the actual games, as opposed to when you look at music radio, it's driven by the artist. The music is what drives it. So it doesn't matter who the on-air personality is. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different. I don't know if it's ever going to be what we all listened to when we got into radio, because what inspired me to get into radio was when I was 8 years old. I heard DJ Hollywood and Allendale, rest in peace to him. But every night, he was on the Big Dog WDOG in Allendale, South Carolina, and I listened to that, and that's what piqued my interest about radio. And I don't think that person exists anymore because you have the proliferation of everybody thinking that they can do this now. And
as long as you got a
that's
Wi-Fi connection and some
right.
equipment, you could instantly put on a podcast without no training.
Right. It is different for people who actually put in the effort and the work to learn how to do this, and you can hear it. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, some of the most popular podcasts are people who don't know how to do radio. And I'm not.
I know how to do podcasts.
We're not sounding like old men yelling at crowd. No, we're just saying it's just a different generation where it's at your disposal. While the three of us, we literally had to work at it and get your reps up doing college radio.
And I will say that one of the biggest issues is that people don't know how to be on-air talents anymore because there's no space, there's no entryway for radio. Like when I started in this business, I was putting up tents before I ever got into a studio. You know what I mean? And then once I got in the studio, I had to learn how to run the board, all that type of stuff before I was able to open up a mic. I learned how to be a broadcaster before I learned how to be an on-air talent.
You probably learned how to write copy as well.
All of that. I was doing all of that. I was writing copy for news. I was writing commercial copy, everything. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that, we have to immerse ourselves into that anymore because of what we have with podcasting. And don't get me wrong. I think that podcasting is a great invention. I think that is necessary, but it's the same thing that blogging did to the newspaper industry, where it muddied the water of what was good and what isn't, or what is something that you should be reading and listening to and what you shouldn't, and that's the big difference. But I do think that it is important. Ownership is super important because you will never be in a position where you're going to be able to have somebody tell you what you can and can't say if you own it yourself. And for what we've been able to do with GOB is that we've always been able to do what it is that we want to do content wise. Some of the stuff that we've produced, no way in the world that an iHeartMedia is going to let us put that out, But even with the music that we play, we go deep in the crates on some of the music that we end up playing. I mean, like the show that we put out this week. I'm listening to the music and stuff, and it's an older show from 2016 that we did. But I'm like, man, this stuff won't get played on a radio station today, man. Even though it's a specialty show, they wouldn't let us play this stuff if we were working for a specific company. Like you ain't hearing like any of these like large like syndicated programs playing stuff like this. I mean, like Breakfast Club is never gonna do stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I think that that's one of the things that made me fearful of giving somebody else that wasn't us the keys to what it is that we do.
Right.
Because I don't ever want us to be in a situation where that vision that Troy creates on most of these shows, or that I create on most of these shows, that cinematic experience that we're trying to give, I don't want that touched. And if that means that we're going to make less money than we're ever going to be able to make, then so be it. Because I think that what it is that we produce is more important to us than how much money that we're ever going to make off of it.
Right. It kind of puts me in the mind of you can either choose to be a McDonald's or a mom and pop restaurant. If you're a McDonald's, you're out everywhere. Everybody knows you. You can get it anywhere all over the world. But when you're a mom and pop, you can only get it at this spot. We only have it. It's not available anywhere else. And when you have it at the mom and pop, you're more appreciative because you know it's not like McDonald's where it's mass produced. And I say this, try to get somebody who have not touched a radio station board or mic. Tell them to do a front sale or a back sale and try to hit the post. That's the best feeling in the world, knowing you're doing a front sale or back sale tease and you're hitting the post, and try to memorize it, because some of the newer automation software, it tells you when your intro or outros are, knowing when you walk into the code. But back in the day, you had to memorize intros, outros.
Right. Now, I remember, you know, like whenever we were trying to do voice tracking and stuff like that, we didn't even have the capability of doing it. So you had to time out your entire hour and, you know, and everything that you place in there. And, you know, once we got voice track software and stuff like that, and it's going to like time it out for you, and it's going to tell you how much time you got on the intro, and it's going to tell you like, you know, all of that stuff just blew my mind when it came about, which is great to have that. But I knew when I first started seeing software like that it was going to kill our industry, because it was going to kill young talent in smaller communities, because people weren't going to pay money for talent anymore. And I mean, like, you can't go to like market number 58 and train. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to happen like that anymore, man. Like, because somebody in market number 4 is going to be voice tracking your market now.
Yeah, because normally the overnight spot was where young talent would get tested out at, and you'll learn the basics. And I also want to give shout out to Charlemagne, the guy who is a South Carolina native, and he got the Black Effect Network going on, and he got different podcasting on there. But I only primarily listen to Breakfast Club for the interviews.
No, that's what I listen to it for.
Same
Every
thing
blue
with
moon
Sway.
I listened to Dunk the other day, and I listened to Rumor Report with Angela Yee. But I say I listen to, I watch them on YouTube. Like, I don't think I've ever heard the show live.
Well, I'm a morning person, so you know that's when I'm up. I'm up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Then you have to deal with the 12-minute commercial breaks that they have too, don't you?
No, I just listen. See,
so you tune out the stop set buster so that it won't count in the PPE, portable people meter, for those of you that don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So when I'm at work per se, I'll have the Breakfast Club on my phone, but I'll have like Sirius XM playing on the computer. So then I'll just take my headphones off.
There's noise.
And focus on Sirius XM.
I thought you would have the Listen at Work station, your standard soft AC station, followed by Delilah at night.
I wouldn't make it through the workday then.
No. But you know, you spoke of something like you know, because even in sports talk and news talk, you know, I remember Colin Cowherd used to be on middle of the night, and now like he's one of the most talented sports talents on air. He wasn't that when he first started, you know what I'm saying, on national programming. And I think that is what's missing in our industry more than anything. Like, you know, people see the end result of Charlemagne going through getting fired a million times, and, you know, working on bits that didn't work, and all this type of stuff. And now, like, he's on the #1 radio show in America, in urban radio. And, you know, you don't see that grind that he had to do when he was on Hot 103 in Columbia. And, when he was on in Charleston and all that stuff, man. Like it's like that part of the game is missing so much now, man. And I don't think that people are interested in doing that part. They just want the end result.
You got to
Instant
crawl before
gratification.
you walk. And shout out to the Two Live Stews out of Mott's Corner,
Yeah,
South Carolina. I
that's right.
listen to the Two Live Stews. Some of the other podcasts I mess with. I mess with Gangsters Chronicles. I mess with
Yeah,
All the
man, you know,
Smoke,
like,
Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, and
yeah,
Knuckleheads with Darius Miles,
yeah,
Quentin Richardson, and then of course Jamel's podcast, Jamel Hills Unbothered, Bomani's podcast, Bomani Jones. So
yeah.
it's definitely great content out there. And the good thing about now is that you can pick and choose who you want to listen to, where you want to listen to, and
Right.
how you want to listen to it.
Yeah. And I consume a lot of audio. Like before we got started, I was listening to a podcast before we even got started, and then I can pick it back up. It's not like it's live. That's the beauty of it. I think that a lot of radio stations have missed the boat on creating exclusive content for podcasting. A lot of radio stations use podcasting to repurpose content that's already been heard, but it should be some exclusive content out there as well, man. And
Yeah, I agree with that
But
because go
do you
ahead,
think that
LeTroy.
a lot of the radio personalities that have spent years trying to get on air, that they're not prepared to even do podcasts? Because that's the way it sort of seems to me.
in some ways, I think that a lot of radio talents, in particular, if you're doing urban radio, you're talking in spurts. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to go do 10, 15 minutes at a time or whatever. You're talking in 20, 30-second spurts, if that. And I think that because of that, it makes it very, very difficult for those people to branch out into doing podcasting. I know quite a few who have attempted it, and it's very difficult for them because they don't have uh, the training to be able to talk in a 12-minute segment, which is essentially what you're doing with. I mean, podcasting is designed for people who come from talk radio. It's just the nature of how it is, man. Like it's real hard if you're used to having music, to go to. You can't do that in podcasting.
No, you can't hide behind music. And you're saying how radio needs to develop exclusive content only for their podcast listeners. It reminded me of Jayla and Jacoby, how they'll take the audio
Yeah.
feed from the TV, but also sprinkle in some podcast exclusives in there to tag
Right.
along with the TV feed. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they will do like an hour podcast exclusives, like what they would do when they were doing it on Grantland.
Right. And that's the way to. Um, but I thought it was cool with the way that they were doing it. I knew that it wasn't going to last long because Jalen is too big of a TV star for ESPN to let him do that much radio. But I just think that it takes a while for people to learn that this ain't easy to do. Like I mean, how many shows have we seen come and go since we started podcasting? We were podcasting before it was cool to podcast. I like to tell people that, man. But we've seen like a million shows come and go, man.
Well, I mean, a lot of them, they think it's easy for one, and because it's a new show and maybe they're very outspoken and they're comedians or whatever on social media, they think that they're gonna turn out to be great podcast hosts, and they're just looking for instant gratification. Trying to see if this is the new hustle.
Think you're gonna
But
get money, right?
Yeah,
but after a month or two, then you don't see or hear from them again.
yeah. You'll end up like Will Smith in that Fresh Prince episode where he had D.L. Hughley guest on, where he just went to the audition to accompany him. The casting agent
Yeah,
ended up putting him in the comedy showcase. He bombed, and D.L.
yeah,
saved his behind. So it kind of
right.
has that same effect.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I think speaking on doing stand-up comedy, man. I think that's the hardest thing to do in entertainment, though.
Yeah, I'm not a stand-up comedian. I will not get up in front, get bombed, and treated like I was waiting for Sandman to escort me off the stage at Apollo, which I did do Apollo when I was 15. That's another story for another day. That's another story for that's another story for another day, man. I'll just tell you this. When I auditioned for the Apollo, it was cattle call. We took a bus from North Carolina to New York. It was 8 hours. So by the time we got there, doors opened at 8, line started at 7. So I was like one of the first few in line, went in, signed some paperwork. It was like American Idol style, 3 judges, audition. They like you. We want you to come back and do the non-televised version of Amateur Night. Now, I didn't know this until the audition, that they have the Amateur Night for the syndicated show, then the regular Amateur Night, which is every Wednesday night. And that was where they would have people from the cattle call auditions come and perform. So I had to come back a couple of months later. Ended up, this was when I used to not no more, but I did Call Top as I Wish. And let's just say I made it to the second verse before the sirens hit.
Hey, so you got booed.
I didn't stack the deck. Now, little tip, if you do go to Apollo, you got to stack the deck, because you're going to have some people there that's going to be solely there just to boo. Look at what happened to Lauryn Hill. And I also will tell you this, camera angles make the Apollo bigger than what it seems. It's very small. Camera angles can make everything seem huge, because I knew some dancers that used to dance on Soul Train, and they told me that the studio where they danced at was like the size of a closet.
I believe it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I never knew that you sang.
Not no more. Not no more. That was my
So that made you quit?
How should I say this kindly? Do you remember there was this major league pitcher, I think by the name of Rick Ankiel. I think it was a pitcher for the Cardinals. And then he had the yips. So I got the yips. When it came to that, I was like, man, maybe I should have wore like a cardigan sweater, or maybe I should have sang a different record. But it was a good experience to say, like, hey, I stood on the same stage that a lot of these greats stood on, got to
James
rub
Brown
the walk and everything like that. And I knew Sandman was coming out, right? So as soon as I heard the siren, I did this. And if for those of you that listen on the audio version, I'm clapping my hands. Hey, I gotta clap myself off that stage, man. So man. So that was my first and only experience doing that in public. So that's why I am doing this. And I appreciate you guys wholeheartedly coming on to Beyond the Album Cover for this interview. So do you guys have any shout outs you want to give before we close, and also plug social?
Well, first off, do you have video of that?
Yeah.
Thank God there was no video.
How are you going to just run?
Thank God there was no video for that. There's no evidence of that performance whatsoever, only in my memory, and that's all that I needed to be.
That's not fair, man.
Hey, life isn't fair. Get used to
it. Yeah. Well, for shouts, man, I want to say, shouts to Hugh Kittles, Grant Wiz of the Good Old Boys radio show. Of course, LJ and Doc of Throw Up Tackle, Larry P and Doc with the unemployment line. And then also we got to give a shout out, obviously, to Black Trump doing wonderful things with Stop, Look, and Listen. That's every Friday. And then we got Jasmine Love. She'll be back real soon. We got Nashandra. She'll be back real soon as well. And then we got some other programs coming. I can't even tell you who these people are yet because, one of them is out there. Big Al is out there, like, publicly. But we got something else that we're working on with some people. But check out everything that we got going on, gobradionetwork.com. All the socials is GOB Radio Network. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We a little bit on Instagram. I need to give that password to somebody else so they can do, because I don't do Instagram. I don't do social media, man. So, most of the stuff you see on social media is Doc on our Facebook, and anything else is like stuff that I've put in, but I don't do social media, so I need to give that stuff to you.
LeTroy, any shout outs?
I'm not all that active. So since you covered the GOB hemisphere, I'll just go beyond that. First off, thank you, Jarrell, for having us. Like I said, you've been an inspiration to us. Like steel sharpens steel. So we're watching what you're doing with Beyond Album Cover, and hopefully we're continuing to carry the mantle with Stop, Look, and Listen. Thank you to every listener that has ever checked out any of our content, ever shared it, ever commented, ever
Told a friend.
Told a friend. We appreciate you. Thank you to every guest that we've ever had. I mean, trust me. I mean, for you to take time out of your busy schedule to come on our programs, we appreciate it. Thank you to every station that has ever carried our show around the world. You didn't have to take a chance on us, but we appreciate you. Thank you to our families, the sacrifices that you all have made while we were traveling or, staying up late, editing shows or creating
Recording
shows.
shows at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Recording shows. We thank you. And just thank you to everyone that has helped harness our talent. Like whether that's for me, Juan Singleton from WJWJ, our professors, Haney Howell, rest in peace, Robert Powell, rest in peace, Professor Fisher, Dr. Click,
Dr. Sorrow,
like just everyone that shaped and molded us. Thank you.
All right, and you can catch this interview available on all streaming platforms and on my YouTube channel of the same name. It's all Beyond the Album Cover. Be sure to follow the Facebook group, facebook.com/Beyond the Album Cover for show updates. And once again, available on all streaming platforms, Apple, Anchor, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, Podbean, anywhere you get your podcast, then YouTube, Beyond the Album Cover. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friends, my brothers from another mother, LeTroy and Mario, good old boys. Thank you guys for coming on.
Right.
All right.